I am Clara, 27, female, and he thought he could break my heart and walk away, so I made sure he'd never forget me. This isn't a declaration of fleeting anger. It's the cold, hard truth of how I responded when Ben, the man I loved, discarded me. For 5 years, I was his rock, his confidante, the silent force behind his ambitious tech startup. He was charismatic, brilliant, and utterly captivating, and I, an aspiring freelance photographer, believed in his vision with every fiber of my being. I invested my time, my emotional energy, and even a significant portion of my meager savings into supporting his dream, convinced that our shared future was just around the corner. Looking back, the signs of his escalating self-absorption were there, subtle at first, then glaring. Ben's startup, Innovate Nexus, consumed his every waking moment and increasingly mine. He'd often dismiss my needs, my feelings, or my own blossoming photography career with a wave of his hand and a charming, yet dismissive, smile. "We'll celebrate after the next funding round, babe," he'd promise. "This is for our future." I believed him, pouring hours into creating marketing visuals for his pitches, editing his presentations, even staying up late to brainstorm solutions for technical glitches, all for little to no pay, because I believed in us. One instance that pricks at my memory involved a crucial photo shoot I had landed for a major local magazine. It was a huge break for me. I had been working tirelessly on it, telling Ben all about my vision. The day of the shoot coincided with a critical, all-nighter development push for his startup. He didn't offer to reschedule, didn't even wish me luck. Instead, he constantly interrupted me with urgent texts about his team, asking me to research obscure tech terms for him, completely oblivious to my own important work. He then expected me to be fully present and supportive of his celebratory dinner that same night, after my exhausting shoot, making me feel selfish for even wanting to rest. Another telling moment came when my old, beloved camera broke. It was an expensive, specialized piece of equipment crucial for my work. I was devastated. Ben, knowing how much my photography meant to me, said, "Don't worry, honey, I'll help you get a new one. Once Innovate Nexus takes off, we'll be rolling in cash." He never followed up. My camera remained broken for months, while he poured every spare penny into lavish office decor and networking events. His priorities were clear, even if I was too blinded by love to truly see them. The cruelest irony was how he used my own aspirations against me. He knew I dreamed of traveling the world, capturing unique cultures through my lens. He'd often say, "Once Innovate Nexus is a unicorn, Clara, we'll go anywhere you want. Imagine the photos you'll take." He painted vivid pictures of a future he had no intention of sharing, using my deepest desires as a carrot on a stick, binding me to his ambition. His smile, so genuine, and looking, masked a cold calculation I was only just beginning to understand. The stage was being set for a brutal awakening, one that would force me to realize the true depth of his deceit. As Innovate Nexus approached its series of funding round, Ben's ambition became a raging torrent, sweeping everything else away. Our relationship, once a partnership, devolved into me being his unpaid, undervalued assistant. He stopped asking about my photography, stopped pretending to care about my day. His phone was constantly buzzing with calls and texts from investors, developers, and, as I would soon tragically discover, someone else entirely. His late nights became the norm, often extending into overnight work sessions at the office. He'd come home exhausted, sometimes with a faint, unfamiliar scent of sweet, floral perfume clinging to his clothes. When I gently ask about it, he'd dismissively say, "Oh, that's Sarah, the new influencer we're collaborating with. She's everywhere. You probably just picked it up from my jacket." He spoke of Sarah with a casual professionalism, a new key player in his grand marketing strategy for Innovate Nexus. He even showed me her public social media profiles, filled with glamorous travel photos and sponsored content, all for the sake of transparency. My gut, however, screamed otherwise. The subtle shifts in his demeanor, the guarded phone, the sudden lack of intimacy, it all pointed to something deeper. One evening, while Ben was in the shower, his laptop was open, displaying an internal company marketing brief. My eyes, almost instinctively, drifted to the side. A small, unopened chat window popped up. It was from Sarah. The message, "Last night was magical. Can't wait for the Paris shoot next month, my love. You're my favorite entrepreneur." My breath hitched. My love, favorite entrepreneur. The words hit me like physical blows. Paris shoot. He had told me he was going to a tech conference in Berlin next month, a crucial trip for Innovate Nexus's global expansion. The pieces, terrifying and undeniable, clicked into place with a sickening precision. He wasn't just having an affair, he was building a relationship with Sarah, a relationship tied directly to his professional ambitions, and he was using his work as a meticulous cover. I quickly snapped photos of the chat, my hands trembling. I scrolled through more of their public profiles, cross-referencing dates and locations. Sarah's recent posts from business trips mirrored Ben's work travel perfectly. They had been to Bali, to Tokyo, to New York, all places he had told me he was traveling to alone, for client meetings. The sickening realization that he was using my own emotional and financial support to build a life with another woman, a woman who was also instrumental to his company's success, filled me with a cold, righteous fury. When Ben emerged from the shower, smiling and oblivious, I met his gaze with a forced calm. The pain was excruciating, but beneath it, a chilling resolve began to crystallize. He thought he could break my heart and simply walk away, leaving me to pick up the pieces while he ascended to success with his new, strategically chosen partner. He had used me emotionally and financially. Now, I would use his own ambition, his carefully cultivated image, and the secrets I held about his professional shortcuts to make sure he'd never forget me. The chat log between Ben and Sarah, brimming with affectionate words and secret travel plans, burned itself into my memory, a searing testament to his deceit, my love, favorite entrepreneur. Each word was a fresh stab, but the raw pain of heartbreak was swiftly replaced by a cold, controlled fury. He hadn't just cheated, he had orchestrated a calculated betrayal, weaving his personal and professional lives into a tangled web of lies, and I, the supportive partner, had been the unwitting dupe. I didn't confront him. Not then. My instinct screamed for immediate confrontation, to unleash the torrent of rage and pain. But my rational mind, honed by years of observing Ben's manipulative tactics, knew that a direct attack would only allow him to deflect, to gaslight, to spin a narrative where I was the crazy ex. I wanted something more enduring, something that would hit him where it truly mattered, his ego, his reputation, and his precious startup. I would make sure he'd never forget me, and neither would anyone else who witnessed his carefully orchestrated downfall. Over the next few days, I moved through our apartment like a ghost, maintaining the facade of our relationship, even as my internal world churned with purpose. Every "I love you" from him, every casual touch, felt like a violation. While he was absorbed in his crucial meetings with investors and prepping for the public launch of Nexus, I was systematically gathering ammunition. My photography skills became my tools of retribution. I used my keen eye for detail and my tech savvy to compile a devastating dossier. I retrieved old, deleted photos from his laptop's trash, revealing intimate moments between him and Sarah that predated his professional introduction of her. I sifted through his cloud storage, finding travel itineraries that clearly overlapped with our relationship, even one for the Paris shoot, mentioned in Sarah's text. I dug through old financial statements, finding transfers of significant sums of our shared savings, money I had contributed for our future, that he had secretly invested directly into Sarah's influencer branding and travel. He hadn't just used my emotions, he had used my money to fund his affair. The most damning piece of evidence came from an offhand comment he had made years ago about keeping a digital safety net of all his communications, a paranoid habit from an early, messy business deal. I found the encrypted drive. It contained not only his communications with Sarah, explicit and affectionate, but also internal company emails where he discussed how strategically important Sarah was to his new marketing campaign, and how he needed to secure her loyalty by prioritizing their personal relationship. It was a cold, calculated transaction, not a passionate affair. My heart, already broken, splintered further. The startup's launch event was approaching, a high-profile industry gala where Ben planned to introduce Nexus and, I suspected, subtly unveil Sarah as his new, powerful partner. That was it. The perfect stage, the ultimate moment of reckoning. One evening, as Ben celebrated a successful funding round with expensive champagne, blissfully unaware of the storm gathering around him, he looked at me, a rare, genuine smile on his face. "It's all happening, Clara. Our future is finally here." I smiled back, a cold, unwavering smile that promised ruin. He thought he could break my heart and walk away, but I would make sure he'd never forget me. The days following my discovery and the meticulous collection of evidence were a living nightmare, masked by a facade of unsettling calm. Ben, oblivious to the sword hanging over his head, continued to radiate his usual charming confidence. He spoke of Innovate Nexus's impending launch event with a feverish excitement, casually mentioning Sarah's pivotal role in their new marketing campaign. Each word from him, each oblivious smile, was a fresh wound, but it only strengthened my resolve. I didn't cry. The tears had been shed in the desolate hours of initial shock. Now all that remained was a cold, precise anger. I knew I couldn't confront him in private. He would simply manipulate, deny, and escape accountability. My aim was to ensure his downfall was public, undeniable, and etched into the memory of everyone who saw him as the golden boy. He had chosen a public stage for his betrayal. He would have a public stage for his reckoning. My freelance photography work, usually a source of creative joy, became my covert operation. I spent hours perfecting the presentation of my evidence, treating it like the most important photo project of my life. I organized the screenshots of their texts, the incriminating emails where he plotted his rise with Sarah, the old photos of us juxtaposed with recent ones of him and Sarah from the same business trips. I even managed to overlay sections of his recorded phone calls, where he discussed his strategic investment in Sarah's influence, with visuals of my bank statements showing the money I had poured into his startup. The narrative was irrefutable, a cold, calculated transaction disguised as love. The most challenging part was maintaining the illusion. I still lived with him, shared meals, and endured his casual touches. Every time he spoke of his vision for Innovate Nexus, knowing his true motivations, a wave of nausea would wash over me. I practiced my neutral expressions in the mirror, perfected the art of the dismissive shrug when he mentioned Sarah. This was a silent war, and I was the infiltrator. I began subtly reaching out to a few trusted contacts in the tech and media world, people I had known through my photography work or through mutual connections with Ben. I hinted at an upcoming expose, a major story about a rising tech star and some unethical practices. I didn't give details, just enough to plant seeds of curiosity and ensure that when the truth dropped, it would land on fertile ground. The launch event was just a week away. Ben was buzzing with anticipation, finalizing his speech, coordinating with Sarah on the marketing rollout. He saw his future unfolding perfectly. He had no idea I was the one holding the match, ready to light the fuse that would burn down his carefully constructed empire. He thought he could break my heart and walk away. He was about to learn just how unforgettable I could be. The night of the Innovate Nexus launch event arrived, bathed in the glittering, deceptive glow of ambition and success. It was held at a prestigious downtown venue, a lavish affair teeming with investors, tech luminaries, journalists, and aspiring influencers including Sarah, dazzling in a designer gown, positioned prominently by Ben's side. Ben, radiating confidence, moved through the crowd, accepting congratulations, the picture of a visionary on the cusp of conquering the world. His smile was wider, more triumphant than ever. And I, Clara, was there too, an uninvited guest, a ghost in plain sight, armed with a truth that would shatter his carefully constructed facade. I had gained entry through a sympathetic acquaintance in event management, blending seamlessly into the background. My heart pounded, a drumbeat against my ribs, but my resolve was colder than the champagne flowing freely. My plan was precise, designed for maximum public impact and irrefutable exposure. I had prepared a series of large, high-resolution prints, meticulously combining the most damning evidence. One print featured a side-by-side comparison, a tender photo of Ben and me from 6 months ago, juxtaposed with a recent, intimate photo of Ben and Sarah from their Paris business trip. Another displayed screenshots of their affectionate texts, overlaid with my bank statements showing my financial contributions to Innovate Nexus, followed by records of Ben's suspicious transfers of my money to Sarah's influencer branding agency. The third was a collage of his gaslighting texts to me, promising commitment, next to his explicit emails to Sarah discussing how crucial she was to his marketing strategy and how he needed to secure her. Each print was undeniable, a visual indictment of his calculated betrayal. As Ben stepped onto the stage, bathed in the spotlight, to deliver his keynote address, a speech about authentic leadership and building trust in the digital age, I made my move. I discreetly approached the display area, where large, sleek screens showcased Innovate Nexus's new marketing campaign, featuring Sarah prominently. The area was momentarily unmonitored as everyone's attention shifted to the stage. With practiced speed, I swapped out a few of the campaign posters with my own damning prints. They were perfectly sized, subtly blending in until a closer look revealed their true, devastating content. I also managed to discreetly slip a few smaller, clearly labeled USB drives, each containing the full digital dossier of evidence, into the pockets of unattended jackets on a nearby coat rack, belonging to prominent journalists and investors I had identified. Then I retreated to a vantage point, watching. Ben's voice boomed, charismatic and confident, as he delivered his hypocritical speech. Sarah beamed at him from the front row, utterly unaware of the storm brewing. Slowly, subtly, the murmurs began. A journalist, picking up her jacket, noticed the USB drive, curious. Another attendee, casually strolling by the display, paused, then gasped, pointing at the altered prints. The whispers spread. Heads turned from the stage to the display. Sarah, noticing the shift in the crowd's attention, glanced over, her smile faltering as her eyes landed on the prints, her face drained of color. Ben mid-sentence noticed the growing commotion. He faltered, his eyes scanning the agitated crowd, then freezing as he saw the new display prints, his image now intertwined with damning evidence. His confident smile evaporated, replaced by utter horror. Sarah, meanwhile, had picked up one of the USB drives, plugging it into her phone, and her eyes widened in dawning, crushing realization as she saw the full extent of the digital betrayal. The music quieted. The confident hum of the crowd vanished. All eyes were now on Ben, then on the prince, then on Sarah, whose horrified expression spoke volumes. His empire of lies had just begun to burn, publicly, irrevocably, for all to see. He thought he could break my heart and walk away, but I had made sure he'd never forget me. The moment Ben's eyes landed on the damning prints, and Sarah's face drained of color as she scrolled through the evidence on her phone, the glamorous launch event dissolved into a cacophony of gasps, whispers, and outright shock. The carefully curated atmosphere shattered, replaced by an unsettling silence as the weight of the truth settled over the room. Ben's voice, which had moments ago boomed with confidence, caught in his throat. He stared at the prince, his own face contorted in a mask of horror. He knew I was behind it. His gaze darted frantically around the room, searching for me, for a way to stop the inevitable. Sarah, meanwhile, let out a choked sob, her eyes fixed on the phone screen. She looked at Ben, her expression a heartbreaking mix of devastation and rage. "James," she whispered, her voice raw, "what is this? Who is Clara?" The question hung in the air, a final, undeniable indictment. A prominent investor, who had just been congratulating Ben, stared at the prince, then at Ben, his face hardening with disgust. Journalists began snapping photos of the display, their questions flying, eager to capture the unraveling scandal. Ben finally found me across the room, my presence a calm, unyielding force amidst the chaos. He lunged from the stage, pushing past bewildered security guards, his face a contorted mask of fury. "Clara, you ruined everything," he roared, his voice thick with a desperate, futile rage. I didn't flinch. I just looked at him, my expression serene, a quiet triumph shining in my eyes. "You thought you could break my heart and walk away, Ben," I said, my voice clear enough to carry over the growing din. "You used me. You used my money. You used my dreams, so I made sure you'd never forget me." The words struck him like a physical blow. He stopped, reeling, his shoulders slumping in defeat. Sarah, meanwhile, had begun to publicly confront him, her voice rising in a heartbroken crescendo as she listed the lies he had told her. "You said she was obsessed. You said she was just an old friend." The scene devolved into utter chaos. Investors demanded answers, journalists clamored for statements, and the event organizers desperately tried to regain control. Ben, stripped of his composure and his carefully cultivated image, was surrounded, bombarded with accusations. He was a pariah, isolated in the very room where he had intended to celebrate his ascent. Security finally intervened, not to escort me out, but to clear the stage and manage the agitated crowd. As Ben was led away, a pathetic figure of public shame, his face etched with absolute despair, I felt a profound sense of closure. He had used me emotionally and financially, believing he was untouchable. But I had ensured that the memory of my broken heart and his callousness would haunt him forever, a burning reminder etched into the very fabric of his ruined career and shattered reputation. The fire I had lit consumed everything. The fallout from the Innovate Nexus launch event was cataclysmic for Ben. The story of his deception, fueled by the irrefutable evidence I provided and the dramatic public reveal, went viral. His meticulously cultivated reputation as an ambitious, trustworthy tech entrepreneur crumbled overnight. Investors pulled out, partnerships dissolved, and his company, once on the cusp of major success, imploded under the weight of the scandal and impending lawsuits for financial misconduct related to my investment and the unethical spending. He lost everything: his company, his credibility, and his meticulously crafted public image. Sarah, though heartbroken and deeply embarrassed, found a profound sense of clarity and empowerment. She publicly severed all ties with Ben and even issued a statement condemning his manipulative behavior, further cementing his public disgrace. We connected again, not as rivals, but as allies, sharing our journeys of healing and rebuilding. Her trust in others was shattered, but her resolve to be authentic and honest strengthened. For me, the initial rush of retribution eventually gave way to a powerful, quiet liberation. The years of silent support, of pouring my energy into someone else's dream while my own stagnated, were over. The act of exposing Ben, while painful, had been incredibly cathartic. It allowed me to reclaim my narrative, to stand up for myself, and to finally shed the heavy burden of his deceit. I channeled my renewed focus and energy into my freelance photography career. The very skills he had dismissed and undervalued became my greatest assets. I invested in new equipment, took on challenging projects, and pursued artistic avenues I had long put on hold. My work gained a new depth, reflecting the resilience and strength I had discovered within myself. Opportunities that once seemed distant now presented themselves, drawn to my unique vision and uncompromising integrity. I learned invaluable lessons from the ordeal. I learned to trust my instincts, to recognize the subtle signs of emotional exploitation, and to prioritize my own worth and well-being. I understood that true success isn't built on manipulation or deceit, but on genuine talent and ethical conduct. My life, unburdened by Ben's shadow, blossomed with new possibilities. I found genuine connections with people who valued authenticity and mutual respect. While the memory of his betrayal would always be a part of my story, it no longer defined me. He thought he could break my heart and walk away, leaving me to disappear into obscurity. Instead, I had ensured he would never forget me, a permanent, undeniable reminder of the woman whose heart he carelessly broke, and who, in turn, orchestrated his complete downfall. And from the ashes of that heartbreak, I rose, stronger, more resilient, and truly free. After listening to today's story, perhaps it has raised some new questions in your mind. Every day on Reddit, new experiences and moments create fresh stories. We are all human. If you enjoyed this story, feel free to share it. Thank you for your time, and don't forget to keep an eye out for more stories coming soon.